the legislative roadmap. In a sense, what the minister was saying is that the speaker has no right to tell her when this bill should be presented on the floor of the House, when it should be read first time, second time, and third time. She has already provided that timeline, and the speaker can do nothing about that. I think it is very shameful for the executive to be providing a calendar for the National Assembly. The executive should lobby the National Assembly to provide a calendar that they think is friendly to them, that they think can accommodate the delivery of business that they want to deliver in that timeline. But to provide the actual dates is actually disregarding the parliamentary process. What if the Speaker wishes to extend the period of consultations? What if the Speaker wishes to modify that timing in view of what she considers more important for the calendar of the National Assembly of Zambia? I think that was poor. And we normally advise the UPND government to make sure that they are not this poor. It's too glaring. You can't keep on in this fashion. But my own sense is that this is a president-driven constitutional amendment. And it is the first time, I think, in the history of our country that we see a president-driven constitutional amendment process. We have to have a people-driven. We have to have people driving the process. So when people now start saying the UPND government is despotic, it is clear. There are examples. You can't drive the amendment process of the Constitution as government. That is being despotic. Why do I say so? I say so because the Constitution is not a document for government. It is a document for people to regulate the conduct of government. So how is it that you, the same government, you are in the forefront of wanting to amend the Constitution and amend it in a manner that is not even accepted by the people? Listen, the president, since this is a president-driven process, he wants to increase the number of people he's going to nominate. Can you imagine? The Zambian people give you a job to look after them. Then you want to increase the number of people you can employ in order to serve you. Because these nominated members, they have no constituencies. They only serve the president. So the president now, after being given a job by Zambians, he wants to come out and employ more MPs to serve him. I think it's shameful. It is extremely shameful. You want to say, no, this amount, this number of people should be in an act of parliament. You remove it from the Constitution, create another act of parliament which is inferior to the Constitution, and that is where the number of nominated MPs will be. Can you imagine? A member of parliament is a constitutional office. We serve in constitutional office. Now, if you put that in an act of parliament, you just legalize it. So why do you want to have a hybrid of constitution office bearers and legal office bearers in one assembly? It is impossible to legalize a constitutional office. Let constitutional offices remain constitutional offices. Elsewhere I read the president wants the Attorney General to remain in office when another president has taken office. Now, listen to this. The Attorney General is a member of cabinet. And on the cabinet chart, the Attorney General is there. So, what the president wants is, if he loses elections, another president wins and constitutes his cabinet, that cabinet must contain his person. The person he himself wanted to be Attorney General. That's being selfish. Go with your Attorney General. Allow the next president to have his own Attorney General. What you want your Attorney General to continue getting data from a new cabinet and defeating those who have gone out there so that you support the process of governing the country after you are out. Be patriotic. Stop these issues of centering everything on himself. The Attorney General should go with the president who appointed him. it is irresponsible to want the same Attorney General to continue, even after they have his appointing authority has actually left office. The other thing, as MPs, I can say that we donate 3 months to the people, because we are elected for 5 years, but we don't finish the 5 years. There's 3 months which remains, and in that 3 months we don't get paid, but we go back to campaign. Those who wish to come back to the assembly, they go back to campaign, and during that time you don't get paid. But even though your contract was for 5 years, there is that 3 months that remains. These amendments, they want even that 3 months to be swept. They want MPs to be paid, even though the MPs are in campaign. So now, and this is where I was asking, if you are going to fill quiz, you are just putting things if you are president, if you are leaders. You want to increase the number of MPs, that is wealth of leaders. You want to increase the number of nominated members of parliament. It's wealth on the president, wealth on the members. You want to, like 3 months, you have to donate 3 months, you have to donate to even when you are not even working, you are in campaigns. What have you put in there for people? These amendments are not people focused. They are president and leader focused. And that is where, for me, I differ with this very sharply, because right now, the government is supposed to be thinking about people more than leaders. Right now, the government is supposed to be thinking about abantu abadechula, not leaders. Look at the stomachs of leaders. Some of the people who you may know, you can even tell what because of this. No, government must be responsible. Stop looking at your own welfare more than the welfare of those who put you in office. This constitutional amendment proposal is a very poor proposal. I would be very shocked if there would be any leader, any person, worth to be called the leader, who can support this process, the process which is just talking about expanding the amount of money going to leaders, expanding the amount of money going to government, instead of thinking about expanding the amount of money going into people's pockets. I think it's unfortunate. The government just needs to withdraw their intentions to amend the constitution and focus on the people. The time remaining before elections is too short. The other thing that I want to comment on is the Mopani Delta IRH relationship. Yesterday, the Minister of Mines was on the floor of the House. What caught my attention as he was speaking was that when Mopani was under pressure, IRH released some money. I can remember correctly, the $100 million into Mopani. IRH, releases $100 million into Mopani. He also talked about $17 million. Now, IRH does not own Mopani. Mopani, that 51% shares into Mopani was given free of charge to Delta. Delta is not IRH. IRH has an interest in Delta, not in Mopani. Now, let's take Mopani because our interest is Mopani. Mopani has a legal personality. It's a legal entity on its own. It has a management. And then Mopani has got investors into it, the shareholders, including Delta. The only way that Mopani can raise funds is number one, by issuing shares, new shares. Okay? And number two, by issuing debentures, loans basically. Number three, by distributing retained earnings. And number 4, by utilizing annual earnings over and above dividends, or if they decide not to declare dividends. There is no other way. So it is surprising me that IRH, which has no interest in Mopani, is giving money to Mopani when Mopani is under pressure. When I asked the Honorable Minister regarding why IRH is giving the money directly to Mopani, the Minister just said that's Mopani is a minister. And I followed up with the point of order because I was not satisfied. The Speaker graciously directed the Minister to clarify. What was the clarity coming from the Minister? The Minister came and told me and the nation that when I have a child, okay, and that child has a campaign, if I release money, I can release money directly to that company or to the child. Now, companies are legal personalities. Humans are humans. They are human entities. The Minister, instead of just telling me why IRH is paying money into Mopani, he decides to bring a family into play. Some time ago, when I was in school, we were dealing with these group companies, and I know very, very well that a parent to a subsidiary cannot deal directly with a subsidiary's interest in other corporations. It's not possible. But we have a situation now that IRH, which is the parent company to Delta, is dealing with interest of Delta in other corporations. So legally, this does not make sense. Even the company law here in Zambia cannot allow this. I can assure you, issues of money laundering are going to arise from this transaction, because the way the Minister jumps up and down when it comes to this particular transaction leaves quite plain to be desired. And I just want to advise my older brother, Honorable Council, be sober about Mopani. Mopani will hate you. You'll be hated by Mopani. This transaction, Mopani is not your company. Mopani was 100% owned by people, the people of Zambia. You decided to give away 51% under those suspicious circumstances. People who were ethical in ZCMH resigned from that entity. For you, you can't resign, I know. Whether it's an ethical issue or whatever, I may not know why. But even as you stay in the offices, remain sober. These are not personal matters. They are not personal matters. And when you are asked a simple question, just respond. Don't be personal. For me, I am not personal. It's not about you. It's about the people whose 51% shares you gave away for nothing. You give away 51% shares. These are the same people who your government has no consideration for even in the amendment of the Constitution. You want to take away everything from the people. Very responsible government you are. But listen to what we heard from the Minister of Energy. He said the fuel will become cheaper because of government policy, open access and so on. The Minister failed to confirm that OPEC countries are going to increase the amount of fuel that they will float on the market. It's an international resolution. The Minister fails completely to make reference to the resolution of OPEC countries. Are you getting you see, this reduction, which is coming as a result of a decision in OPEC countries, should be attributed to European policy. And what European policy is open access to the pipeline. You have stayed 4 years in office. Why didn't you open up the pipeline if that pipeline was going to be the key to the reduction of the fuel cost? Why were you single sourcing? Even the users of that part. And you see, this same chicken, you think people are not speaking, you just feel that everyone is just.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, senior leaders and the Court Estate. Just to add on a bit, I'm Honorable Francis Robert Kapianga, and of course, today is a special day for I and the Honorable Smumba. We got suspended again for the second time. We resumed, rather we started coming back. We reported back for work on Wednesday this week. And today, the UPND decided to plant one of their members to raise a point of order against I and Honorable Smumba, stating that our suspension, the 7-day suspension, is not yet over. The Speaker hurriedly ruled in favor of that point of order, that indeed our suspension is not yet over. And she went on to stress that we would not get the sitting allowances for the 3 days that we worked for. For us, that is not what we are here for. We are here to serve the Zambian people. And if it was about the sitting allowance, if the Speaker was so much worried about the sitting allowance, she would have simply asked us, because we are very much willing to work even for a month without getting any sitting allowance or any money, for as long as it pleases us to serve the Zambian people. And even in this case, those of our senior members who have been in Parliament before were intimating to us that when you are suspended, the office of the clerk is supposed to write to you stating when you are supposed to report back for work. Currently, the institution is just operating like, I don't even know the right word to use. So really, in fact, we are in the process of moving amendments to provide for an option. I, as a member of Parliament, I can actually decide to save for a particular period of time without getting paid. That is the kind of amendments that we want to move. We got, it was very painful to I and Honorable Smumba, because this was happening at a time when the Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security was making a ministerial statement on the floor of the House regarding the national legislation mobile exercise. We've been yelling to interact with the Minister on this subject, because from 2021 December or somewhere there, 2022, the Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security under the UPND government has been conducting national legislation exercise, mobile exercise in 3 provinces, excluding the other 7 provinces. And this we've talked about several times on the floor of the House, and the Speaker would say, no, that is not the subject we need to discuss here. Today it was that subject which was being discussed on the floor of the House, and would have loved to ask the Minister of Home Affairs, how is the government and the President saw it very fit to exclude 7 provinces from the exercise? On the other hand, you preach about unity and inclusivity. Where is inclusivity in that exercise where you embark on national legislation mobile exercise in 3 provinces, excluding 7 provinces where we have people in Inagwali, we have people in Chishala, we have people in Mukungule, the youths who want NRCs for them to go and find, to go and look for jobs in the line of rail. That was not done. Instead, this government decided to focus on 3 provinces in the Zambezi region. That was uncalled for. And a government that is there to promote a national unity cannot do such a thing. That is very shameful and very primitive. And we call out the UPND government to apologize to the Zambian people for having excluded 7 provinces from the mobile national legislation exercise. There is no government on earth that can do such a thing. This is the more reason why even those of us that are anti-constitutional amendments, We've asked the UPND government. The constitution has two parts. We have a part for the Bill of Rights, then we have a part for politicians and others. Why hasn't the UPND government focused on the Bill of Rights, which talks about the citizens, the ordinary people? Because any government needs to give rights to its people to enjoy development, to enjoy other liberties. The UPND government is not doing that. They want to talk about proportional representation. When you check the definition of proportional representation, it's an electoral system where powers of elected members of parliament are deposited in a few political party bosses. What the UPND is simply saying is that they intend to withdraw the powers of directly electing members of parliament from the people and deposit it in a few political party bosses. This is why we are against it, because we as members of parliament to continue being elected directly by our people. But when you hear the UPN talk about proportional representation, the correct definition of proportional representation is that members of parliament are not directly elected by the people. And such MPs will not be loyal to the people that elected them. The UPND government needs to focus on things that matter for the Zambian people. To you, the Zambian people, the minister has announced now a general, after they have conducted a national registration exercise in 3 provinces, today they have now announced that in 2 weeks' time the government is going to embark on a national mobile registration exercise. Well, it's never too late. Your opportunity now has come for you to register in large numbers. You cannot say you will change government in 2026 without an NRC. You cannot say you will change the government in 2026 without a voter's card. Your opportunity has come. To you, the UPND, I'm here to tell you that ichitwala yensakuko na bambala wine chikamukwana. The same way, mwaya pabuteko okubepa abekala chalo kweba ati mukabasa kamani, okubepa abekala chalo kweba ati amabwika shirabo yakachinja, lirya mu Afrika para mu atambo okula kitefintu fimbi, mwaya sakama na abantu abakwate ndarama kale, abalanda bale chulira kofi, abakwate ndarama bale kwatira kofi ndarama mu buteko bwenu. Ushena lesa yemo mwali mwishiwe. Muri bantu bamusango shani abashitina na lesa. Mwe bashakwatira abalanda oluse. Mwe balengera abalanda, mwe balelenga abalanda bale chulira kofi. Inseparation ono nga shatishirandeko mwabula mwashitina na bapolisi bale shikata. Inseparation ono nga shatishirandeko mwabula mwashitina na bapolisi kushamuri bantu bamusango shani. Icho mfuile mwapoza kwa maana nte kuchita menu pakulo. Kupera ba youth inchito, ba youth bafaile nifi ya kuchita mwali babepa sana. Mule chitanga mule chitari kuruti bakafundisha, mule chitari kuruti ama lessons, mule vikapona makata zbenwe balefula. Abantu balefuna bekala kumpika, abantu nabekala kukasama, abantu nabekala kuchipata. Bapokelela fya makata zeba libuma uniform bale bombati nishina boni banazi nangu nishiniba teacher. Kwena imwe ba UPND ala na 2026 ine ile kokola. Tuwala yengira muma pepona mafungo. Ukutila lesa amone fyo chingaba wangu ama elections ipi peko inshita tukakwata ama elections wangu ya 2026 mwe bantu bakwalesa tule milomba bonso kutira ishintungulushi mule monamba iyi Friday shachira ko dedicate ukumilandira ifyo bale tukanye okulanda mona twise tumilandire kuno imu mwewe kala charo pakutira ubuteko bwingofwa opo twatambira okulanda ba UPND tabatara bonfwa kona ngushku elofyon sefyo bachita tawafichitira ko kweba tibalefu ayi mwe bapina chimuamine tapabe cyo bachitapo ichakuamina mwe bapina fyonse fyakumona wila fya mawikashi ba UPND tuletira ayaye na mamanzi ya sharapa kupende kota mulaya chiteni po fye chintu chimwe cyo abena Zambia bakalame ukisishapo panto abena Zambia tabakami ukishapali corruption abena Zambia tabakami ukishapali load shedding abena Zambia tabakami ukishapali tribalism abena Zambia tabakami ukishepa bungobu adula tabakami ukishapali fertilizer ya dola tule milomba ba UPND okutira chiteni ko ikintu kimo elo ne ine constitution mulefu okutira amend pakutira mu IPLF fulo ifunyeniko ififulo mulefu okuyipelef ya kutiba UPND bekabeke bakale chite enjoy abalanda bale chula ifunyeniko poseni amana mukuchinja mawikashi abantu bachalo bale chula bale ya chibwabwe ya bulana salad bale gali emiyungu ne fipusha bekala chalo tamwako atalose imwe muleli efintu ifya free abali kala chalo bale chula ba misali kushanilisa mukomfwa ayamakulamu abiika mu matwi yafunye eni mu buno kumunfweko okulira kwabeena Zambia natotera mukwali.
After Honorable Obianga speaks so passionately about matters that lie at the center of the controversy we're experiencing now, it gives you a feeling of defeat, that we are going through the darkest hours in our nation. But every human being is gifted or is blessed with the spirit of determination. And as we speak to the nation, my expectation is that Zambians are not going to take a defeatist going on in the country. In fact, what is going on in the country must embolden us as citizens people from those to whom we have entrusted this power and who have decided to do nothing but abuse their power and seek to recreate their leadership in the most gregarious way. This week has been a very sad week insofar as the legislative programs of our National Assembly have been. The elephant in the room is this wanton and malicious attempt by the UPND to change the superior law of the land to fit their momentary wins and caprices and to subjugate the rest of the population, even as they seek to recreate themselves as a leadership that should win the next election in 2026. But before I talk about the Constitution, let me just make a few remarks on the cyber security and cyber law, or cyber crime registration, which was also on the floor of the House and which unfortunately went through readings with the attendant expectation that again the UPND is trying to subjugate the freedoms of the Zambian people, the freedoms of expression, most importantly, the freedoms that are given to you as journalists to put governments in check on what they're doing. At the time when people are thinking we're supposed to pass the Access of Information Act to ensure that government is held to account by its public, by members of the public, the UPND has decided to even tighten the cybersecurity legislation to ensure that you don't check on what they're doing, and also to provide a spying mechanism, in society to be following what you are doing in your private life. The few remarks I would like to make to the Zambians is that I would like you to remember the UPND at the time that the Patriotic Front was in charge of government, and at the time that we first passed the cybersecurity legislation, and when we attempted to amend it. What informed the Patriotic Front desire to amend cybersecurity legislation at that time was to make sure that we pass laws that do not interfere with the freedom of expression and also with the freedom of journalists. But the UPND rose and started misinforming and misrepresenting the public that we wanted to start spying at the citizens in what they were doing, even when they knew clearly that our attempt was only to ensure that our laws are not only suitable in terms of how they relate to our constitutional liberties and also to the need to regulate the cyberspace, but we are also compliant with treaties, be them regional treaties or international treaties. Asking Zambians not to support the amendment of cybersecurity legislation which was being proposed by the Patriotic Front, and even went ahead and said that if we came into power, even the current legislation of cybersecurity, a skeptic would be given to think that this mismatch between the actions and the words of UPND are just natural mistakes. But with what is going on in the country, you must know that now they are a determined bloc that would like to feed people on falsehoods and begin to do things that are different from what they are saying. I have always argued that leaders must not be voted for and must not be retained in office for the lies that economy, be it bettering the relationship in the region with our colleagues, in the region, be it ethnic relationships. What they have said and what is obtaining on the ground now are two different contradictions. And Zambians have now the opportunity to begin to prepare themselves as we head towards 2026 and make a decision on how we are going to treat this regime that came at the background of promise, that came at the background of popular applause from the Zambians, that they had gotten rid of an evil government in the PF and put in angels in government. What we have now seen is clear that the PF was a much better government that was running the affairs of the nation compared to the UPND. In fact, somebody was remarking yesterday, joking, saying what the UPND is trying to do with the constitution now makes Bill 10 look like a holy Bible. And you can agree with such a comment, because we have now seen exactly what the UPND has been attempting to do. The UPND went to the lengths to frustrate Bill 10. What the public may not have known at that time, but we have now disclosed to the public, is that Bill 10 was authored in collaboration between the Patriotic Front and the UPND. The UPND vehemently supported Bill 10. They participated in all the preparatory meetings that gave way to the creation of the Bill 10 platform. It is only when they discovered in their wrong assessment that the passing Bill 10 was going to make the PF a much more popular government because it was listening to the people, that they decided to frustrate the efforts of Bill 10. And like the acting president remarked at that time, Honorable Given, he said the frustration of Bill 10 by the UPND was not the loss of the Patriotic Front, it was the loss of the nation. But he also said that the ghost of Bill 10 is going to come back and haunt the UPND. What we saw the Minister of Justice trying to do on the floor of the House, like has been remarked by Honorable Kafai, is a clear case of somebody who frustrated an effort that was even much more helpful to the nation, and comes and seeks to introduce a program in the nation that is much more gregarious. I sat in that chair in the chamber and was feeling like collapsing as I saw the minister read out the program that they are rolling out in their attempt to amend the Constitution. First, I was very confounded because they are Constitution. People have done it at this time, and people have given reasons why we should not have this amendment to the Constitution between now and the election. Any listening government that boasts itself to be a democratic government, any listening government that boasts itself to respect the Constitution and respect the rights of people that they preside over, would have decided to curtail this process and agree that we can go to the election in 2026 using the current Constitution, which, as I've argued many times, is the one that even delivered the UPND into government, and deal with the issue of amending the Constitution after 2026. But what we are experiencing now is a clear case that we are being led by a selfish and self-serving regime in the name of the UPND. Because quite frankly, if you say you are consulted, and those that you consulted have made public remarks that they don't support your program, it lends little credence to what you are doing. If you decide to go ahead, even with the program that your friends have told you can't go ahead with it. I was very elated this morning when I woke up with the press that I was elated because the Law Association of Zambia has made this process of trying to amend the Constitution when the whole nation has said it shouldn't do. The Law Association of Zambia was even able enough to go into the nitty-gritties of what was laid down by the Minister of Justice and given individual responses to what the Minister was saying. Clearly, the Law Association of Zambia has even pointed out the fact that if you compare Bill 10 to what is happening now, Bill 10 was even a much more better process than this, because at that time everybody should be in the consistencies, jostling for election. Why should you give me an unfair advantage against somebody who's not a member of parliament for those 90 days, just because you want me to amend the Constitution today? You know, a suggestion was also given that we are being returned to the councils to also be participants in the council. I don't know about my friend, you know, but my role as member of parliament, which I cherish very much, is to sit in this house and pass laws and also provide oversight to what the government is doing. That is the responsibility of member of parliament. Anywhere in the Commonwealth, even outside the Commonwealth, that is a minister of the current Constitution. If you don't agree with the provisions that are being suggested to you, and I know you don't agree, it is time for you to stand up and defend this Constitution. Because if this Constitution is passed in the way that is being passed, Mr. Honorable Kafaya has already pointed out many of the issues which, if they came to the fore, this country would transcend from the democracy that it is right now to an oligarchy, because you allow the president and his collaborating partners to be able to infuse cabinet and parliament with appointed individuals Parliament is supposed to be made up of elected individuals and a very small fraction of appointed individuals. The argument that the Minister of Justice was trying to push, that this is just going to be a fraction, which is a continuation of the existing fraction, is actually not true. Because somebody pointed out, when I was already, that in fact, before there were 156 members of Parliament in Parliament, the number 8 had already been fixed as a number that the President can nominate into Parliament. This argument that's going to be a percentage or a fraction is actually sheer red herring. I said yesterday the Minister is being disingenuous and they must drop that justification because it can't stand. How do they drop it? The Zambians must stand and show the UPND, where the power itself lies. Somebody had argued, and I agreed with them, that Act number 2 of 2016 is one of the best constitutions that Zambia has ever produced in a long time. And I know and I agree with that because I've been involved with various constitutional making initiatives in this country. Possibly the only one I was never involved in is the Chona Commission, because at that time I was just a toddler, okay, and we didn't understand. The Chona Commission came to replace what was known as the pocket constitution that was given us by Lancaster in 1963. In 1963, Mr. Nkugula and Mr. Kapwepwe and Mr. Kaunda went to Lancaster and were given, constitutions to put in their pockets to bring here. That is the only document that was never negotiated by public participation of the Zambians. But I know that the Chona Commission had public participation. The Mpunga Commission had public participation. The Manakato Commission had public participation. Even the Mungomba Commission had public participation. Even when it was that task force that was put by Mr. Sata, even that there was public participation. What is so special with what UPND is trying to suggest? That we can pass a constitution in 90 days. That the Select Committee can sit to consider a constitution in 2 weeks. This is how dictatorships are started. And if you have to fight dictatorship, you must nip it in its bud, because once it passes through that door, you will not catch it. You all become victims, and all of us are going to become victims. We are here fighting this not because we want to preserve ourselves. In fact, if we wanted to preserve ourselves, we would have been supporting this initiative. I have one of the biggest constituencies in the country, and the limitation benefits me. But what is the limitation if it is going to adulterate our constitutional section that will go to the nation? I stand against this purely because I do not agree that we can put, like President Hakainde said when he was in opposition, in opposing butane, he said, you don't drink a cocktail because it's sweet when you know that that cocktail is laced with poison inside. That's exactly what is happening in this initiative. This is an evil initiative. It is a poisonous initiative. They are trying to lace it with sweets inside so that those of our politicians or our MPs whose levels of excitability are very low will agree to it, knowing that they're killing the nation. This is a time when we are being called upon as individual members of Parliament to protect the legacy of the nation. And we can't toil with the Constitution. Honorable Kakwaya had made several statements about Constitutional office holders who it's being suggested their office must continue even when the government changes. That tells you exactly how evil this scheme is. You can't change the cabinet if they want to reduce the qualification for you to qualify as assistant to cabinet by having only 5 years of service in civil service. You cannot be more dangerous than where the UPND is taking us.